More about Gabriel Attal's speech with Solange Moujon, who joins me now in the studio. Solange, we just heard Attal pushing back there against the left, the far right. But first of all, why was it the Prime Minister and not the President, Emmanuel Macron, who was actually there presenting Renaissance's plans?
Well, Attal made it very clear at the start of his press conference that he is the one who is carrying this campaign. Prior to coming on stage, he actually played a promotional video without a single image of Emmanuel Macron on it. And then he said that this election is not, he said this election is not a presidential one. Now, the irony is that according to the rumor mill, Attal was not at all in the loop on the dissolution of the parliament and the calling of these elections. And actually, the rumor is that he was actually quite against it. Nonetheless, the strategy of the Macron team is to make this legislative election about the pick of the Prime Minister. Off the bat, in the press conference, Attal said that this election is between three choices: his party, the far right, and the left. And he said that voters need to pick between himself, Jordan Bardella, or Jean-Luc Mélenchon. Now, for the record, the left coalition has not chosen Mélenchon as he is likely to be, and he is likely to be passed up because he is such a divisive figure. But for Attal, it is a quick sort of way to paint himself as the best candidate of the three, while also sidestepping Macron's current unpopularity. Now, the Prime Minister also stated that things will play out in the first round on June 30th, that it is then that, and not after the second round, that the real winner will be made clear. Now, this is Renaissance's push to try and not come in third place and thus remain on the ballot for the second round, so it wouldn't be a choice between the left and the far right.
Solange, one of the main arguments of Macron's party is its economic record. But at the same time, their critics say they haven't paid enough attention to the financial struggles of many lower and middle class French people. How did Attal speak to that?
Well, today there is a grand oral, or an oral presentation that's going on between all of the party heads and the MEDEF, France's main business union, as each party tries to court them and defend their economic vision. Now, to this, Attal said that his campaign promises are the only ones that are fully financed. That is a bit of a jab, in a way, of the other main parties, as their critics say that the left and the far right, their policies are either too costly and will sink France, or are not flushed out enough and are too unrealistic and thus will sink France. So Attal essentially said that the economic world is very, very worried about what will happen if either the left or the far right win.
They are ringing alarm bells because, of course, the risk is great. Let's not take this risk of jumping into the void or jumping without a parachute. Do not drive the French economy into a wall with the National Front or the NUPES of France Unbowed. Their policies would bring back mass unemployment. Instead, let's continue with the France where there's employment and good employment.
So what did Attal promise? Well, when it comes to helping the French people's pocketbooks, he said that the Renaissance, by next winter, would cut electricity bills by 15%. This is a response as well to the far right's proposal of 30%, which Attal said it would just actually put more profits into the coffers of energy companies like Total. He also plans on cutting some of the notary fees for the middle class, for those buying their first home. He also repeated wanting to link pensions to inflation to boost the purchasing power of the elderly. And he also vowed that in their budget, which they plan to flush out in the summer if they're elected, there would be no new taxes regardless of what happens. And then he went on to discuss the French workforce, saying that the government was looking to experiment with the 4-day work week, more flexible schedules for families that share child custody, divorced families, for example. And he also said that he wants to boost to 10,000 euros the tax exemptions that currently exist of bonuses that employers can give to their employees. And finally, Attal put a slogan on all of this: Gagner plus pour dépenser et dépenser moins, or earn more and spend less.
So the press conference, Solange, didn't just touch on Macron's economic vision. Gabriel Attal also spoke about the environment and about religious hatred.
Yeah, first let's tackle energy and the environment. Attal said that in addition to the 15% energy bill cuts for the French's pocketbooks, his government would build 14 nuclear reactors. They say it's the only way to go quickly on the environmental front. He also repeated a pledge to boost electric cars, with 100,000 of them being leasable for 100 euros or less. Now, as as for religious and racial hatred, Attal regrouped the condemnation of the far right and the left they regrouped them in his criticism. He blasted what he calls the friendly relationship of the far left and the far right that he says they have with communitarianism and stigmatization of people. But he did not really go into the differences and the very different stances that each group has towards anti-Semitism, towards anti-Muslim sentiment. Equating the two groups, the left and the far right, is also part of Macron's strategy. Beyond that, Attal did say that the world and Europe are watching very closely to this vote and will be on June 30th. But before that, the French will also be watching. This is Attal's next big challenge, Macron's as well, but it'll be Attal on the television against Jordan Bardella and Emmanuel Macron, who will be representing the Left Alliance, not Jean-Luc Mélenchon, in a televised debate on June 25th.
All right. Well, certainly curious to see what comes out of that. Thank you so much for that, Solange Mouzin, for that look at the campaign in this new French election.